nailed it. Andy's got a type, right? I don't know if he's into redheads like I am, but that's okay. He's got a wide receiver type. And at the end of the day, there's maybe no better comparison to what Andy's already done in the past. And I think this is what went by the wayside. When you make the comparison of Xavier Worthy to Devonta Smith, it's not apples to apples, because Devonta's about the same size, and yes, he's had some success, but he's not as physical in the route. It's once you defeat or you get a release, so first 2, maybe 3 steps. After that, Xavier is more strong physically through the route and to his standpoint than I think Devonta is. There's a paradigm there. And the other guy that is more physical, despite being slight, is a guy that worked in the Philly offense for a lot of years, in DeSean Jackson. So it's not atypical of Andy to go for a guy that's a little bit more slight, a little bit more light, but can burn, because it's about how you play through the route, not the weight that you bring to the route. And I think that's what they're buying their evaluation on. And I was a little skeptical at first too. You know, Dan was the primary on all the specialty positions except quarterback this year. And the way that we break it up at RAPC is Dan will take some of those. I'm heavy on the defense because that's what I come from. And then we sprinkle in some guys that are experts at what they do, including our guy, EJ Holt, who does all the DBs, because if you're going to ask me about one position that I can't coach technique on, it's going to be DBs. So in hearing his evaluation of DBs playing against Worthy, what we got was, hey, he's tougher than he looks. He can fight through route combinations and battle DBs with physicality more than you think he will. Now, when he was younger, not this last season, but I thought the biggest quality that I loved about him was his ability to track over his head. And you have to have that with that kind of deep speed, and that's not always the case. So if you can get to the point that you're even, and so for Xavier, it's going to be about the first 10 yards. If he can get to where he's even, he's gone, because you can't keep up with him, and he can track over the top. So will there be technique that he has to add? Yes. Will he have to be able to use his hands much better in close contact? Absolutely. But he's got enough physical and enough like get off me attitude that I think he's going to be okay. It's going to be an adjustment. I don't expect like a rocket progression for him. I see it kind of like we did with Rasheed last year, where they're going to pepper him. They're going to start giving him more reps as he learns the offense. And I think we will see him ascend as we get to the postseason. That's my personal expectation.
But entertain me here for a second, because I've heard the same thing from a few other people more at the national level, the comparisons. Obviously, you know, whenever a first-round pick comes up, they're always trying to find adequate comparisons. And we've heard the DeSean Jackson comparison. And what I said on Twitter this last week was, you know, that's unfair. You shouldn't compare him to DeSean Jackson. DeSean was an awesome player, and it's just hard to put that kind of pressure on a player. I'm sorry. Last I checked, the Chiefs traded up 4 spots. Not just drafted Xavier Worthy in the first round. They traded up 4 spots to get him in a wide receiver rich draft, maybe the richest ever. So there's adequate reason to believe that this guy should become something. And to be honest with you, DeSean Jackson being a middle second round pick in his own respect, to me, I think it's more than fair that you compare him to a DeSean Jackson. In fact, I think it's fair that you say that Xavier Worthy should become the better player.
I won't say that you're necessarily wrong. I will say that that's riskier only because the offenses are different. And honestly, the rules today in terms of DB contact, quarterback contact, they shift the paradigm a little bit. To expect him to get to that rate is going to be, I think, a little bit more difficult, but I think he can be comparable, certainly.
Yeah.
And I think you brought up a great point. It's not just about the player. It's about what the team is willing to give up for him. I mean, Brett Veach, don't go vacation in New York. There's hits out on you in Buffalo right now. So he can't go there. Man. And he took that risk to go get this particular player. And I think that says a lot, too. When you're willing to give up capital, especially for a guy like Brett Veach, who knows that he's going to take – X first round pick that didn't work out in their first stop, and he's going to try to rehabilitate him. Like, he knows he has bites at the apple, right? So for him to take that risk, I do think that once they got past the tackle situation in the first round and the first 2 tiers were gone, it was no holds barred. Let's go get a guy that helps us right now.